Well, I've been fighting for common sense government for most of my life. I got involved in politics mainly, or in part from my father. My father was working on Lyle Williams' congressional campaign when I was a kid, and I pounded signs, knocked on doors, and I kind of got bit by the bug of public service. And I've been involved in a lot of campaigns since then. Big campaigns, small campaigns, a couple of my own. I ran for the 59th District last election, won a primary, a Republican primary, and then went on to face John Boccieri. I got beat in that race. I believe it was about a 60-40. But I believe that we need common sense government. Our area's been underrepresented for way too long. And even though the Democrat Party is the majority here in Mahoning County and has been for quite some time, that's not the case in the state. And what I keep hearing over and over from the Democrat representatives that go to Columbus, they say, well, we can't do anything, our hands are tied. Well, I think maybe it's time we try something different and send somebody down there that the speaker will listen to. It's anybody that doesn't know politics or hasn't gotten into any type of political races in any part. It's hard work. It doesn't come easy, and there's a lot of events you got to go to, and there's a lot of running around, a lot of late nights. And all that to me is positive things. However, there are some negative stuff too. There were some people that came out, and actually I got a threat that I thought was serious through that campaign. But you get people that agree with you, people that disagree with you, and politics is a very passionate thing. Common sense representation. You know, like I said, I truly believe we've been underrepresented for a long, long time. I had a conversation with a previous state representative that told me there's nothing I can do. He said, I go to Columbus and I throw my hands up in the air. Yet they got reelected and reelected and reelected, and by their own account, if they couldn't do anything, why were they there? You know, the Republicans have a huge majority in the state, and that is probably going to continue for quite some time. And it's just time that we get our fair share. Like I said, for many years, in my opinion, many years, the Mahoning County has been overlooked because the Republicans have never really done much for us here because they don't have to, or they wouldn't, because the Democrats control the whole area, and politics being what it is. And the Democrats have left us behind too because, you know, they know that they can win here, and they have won here easily. So it's time for a change. And the political winds are changing. You know, with the Trump thing last year, the president, you know, Mahoning County went 48% for a Republican candidate, which is unheard of. And I believe things are changing. As a matter of fact, as evidenced by this last election, we had a lot of good conservative Republicans elected to nonpartisan races, and I'm one of them. I'm on the Middletown Village Council as of the election in November, and as a matter of fact, was just sworn in last week. Well, for our area in particular, it's important because if you belong to the majority party, you got a much better chance of getting into the speaker's ear and them actually taking you seriously and taking all the politics out of it. Government is political, so there's always a little bit of political games going on, and you give preference, or people have given preference to their own party over the other party. But it's our turn to be represented the right way. There's a lot of opportunities, and we've missed out on jobs. For example, you know, a company wants to come to Ohio, and the powers that be will put them where their power bases are and where their representation is, and we've been left behind. I mean, there's been some positive moves in our area, but not nearly enough. I mean, you look at Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati; those areas seem to do very well under good conservative leadership, and in part because of good conservative leadership in the state. You know, last year was kind of a wild card. I mean, the polling showed that President Trump was doing well in this area, actually much better than a Republican candidate has done in a long time. And we didn't actually see what happened until Election Day. So yeah, that gives me a lot of faith and a lot of hope that the political winds are changing. People are opening up their minds a little bit instead of going along with, well, I'm this party because my mom was, or my dad was, and their grandfather was, and you know, people are starting to look and be more open to opportunities. As a true conservative, I am against high taxes across the board. And in my opinion, the rainy day fund is an example of overtaxation. If the state can operate without that money, then that money needs to be returned back to the people. And whether it's some sort of a tax rebate directly to the people, or to help areas that need help, like Mahoning County, because we are behind in a lot of things when you compare it to the state. So yeah, that money, I don't believe any government should have a savings account. So yeah, I break with our governor on that for sure. Take the things like the rainy day fund and give that back to the local communities. I mean, there's a lot of, in block grants or whatever to help local communities. But like, for example, in the Middletown Village, even though I'm new on that council, right now we've got things like our police and fire equipment that really need to be updated. And because of the budget hits, I mean, it's tough to do. Now we are going to be looking into some ways to make it happen. Because there are some grants available for some different things. But yeah, the overtaxation that's been thrown into a savings account that they call the rainy day fund shouldn't happen. That money could be used, especially when you've got that much money that could be spread around to the areas that need it, more so than the bigger communities that don't need it. And like I said, overall, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, the big 3 Cs, they're doing okay. Our area, even though Youngstown City is not in the 59th district, it's still Mahoning County. So any benefits that happens in the county helps everybody in the county. And I think I can be a good representative in Columbus to try to get some of that money back to communities like ours. We've got to figure out our way out of this opioid epidemic. I mean, last year, Ohio was rated #1 in opioid overdoses. The new report that I just saw put us at #2. So we're going in the right direction, but we're still in the top 2 of opioid deaths. With my the industry that I work in, this is what I do, and so it's something I know about. It's not some place that I volunteer for or anything like that. It's actually something that I do for a living, and I'm very familiar with the Pennsylvania model on the way they do things on training requirements, on the professionals have to be a certain level of education to provide the right treatment, and I think we are behind on that. And if Ohio could move towards more of like the PA model, they're way ahead of us on that kind of stuff. And moves like that will help Ohio get even further down that list and hopefully eventually stop opioid overdoses and deaths altogether. I've been a conservative Republican my entire voting life, and even before that I was a conservative young man. I agree with what President Trump has done so far. I haven't seen anything that I really disagree with. But I also understand that President Trump is probably not really a conservative, although he's making some really good conservative moves. And I'm sure at some point he's going to do something. I'm going to go, why? What are we doing that for? So I'm going to say that probably I'm a party loyalist over being a Trump loyalist, although I like what he's doing right now.